Former President Trump's economic proposals are already making economists sweat. To break down the proposals and how it could impact the economy, Yahoo Finance reporter Rick Newman is here. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Rochelle. So for me, it's a flashback to 2016 when Donald Trump, the Republican presidential candidate, said he wanted to impose tariffs all around the world on imports coming into the United States. At the time, he said, I think 45% tariffs would be a good number. And economists did the math, and they said that would be ruinous. Now, Trump did get elected, obviously, and he did impose tariffs. They were not as high as 45%, so the effects of those tariffs were not as severe as many economists said they would be if he had done them higher. But those tariffs generally did not do what Trump wanted them to do. He wanted an improved trade deficit with China, which really hasn't happened. And he wanted more stuff made in the United States, and that hasn't really happened either. Yet here comes Trump, a candidate again in 2024, saying he wants to go even further than he did with tariffs and impose a new 10% tariff on almost all imports to the United States. So economists are back at it. I'm starting to see a lot of estimates on this. We import about a little bit over $3 trillion worth of products into the United States every year. So at a simple level, 10% tariff would be a $300 billion tax, mostly paid by American importers and by American consumers. And then you would probably get retaliation from the countries subject to this tariff, which means our exports could go down because they would be more expensive in this other country. So most economists just absolutely hate this idea. And yet, here's Trump. I guess he thinks it worked for him in 2016, so he's bringing it back in 2024.
It's interesting because it's a very, very different time now. But it doesn't seem to be affecting his popularity. I want to draw your attention to this Reuters and Ipsos poll out this morning showing Trump with a wide lead in terms of the GOP presidential candidates at 49%. The next closest candidate, Haley, at 12%, DeSantis at 11%. And this is just a few days before Monday's caucuses in Iowa kick off for the state contest. What do you make of this?
That's what the polls have been telling us all along. There's nothing surprising there. If there is any surprise, it might be that Trump's margin in that one poll you cited, Rochelle, is a little bit smaller than it has been in other polls that many have shown him well over 50% of Republicans saying he's their guy. So we're going to find out for real. Instead of polls, we're going to have actual votes. The Iowa caucus is coming up next week, then New Hampshire, and then we are in the primary election season for real. I think most people following this do expect Trump to win decisively in Iowa. Nikki Haley could do better in New Hampshire, where she's been putting in a lot of effort. And I think what everybody's looking for here is whether there is any surprise, which would be either one of those two people behind Trump, either Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis, actually outperforming to the level that they could actually challenge Trump in some meaningful way. I think the likelihood of that is very low. But just to remind people, I think these other candidates are in it, number one, because when you run for president, you get famous on other people's money. And number two, there's a non-trivial chance that something could happen to Trump and he ends up not being the candidate. He's in his late 70s, so there could be a health issue. Some states are saying Trump cannot be on the ballot. The Supreme Court's going to decide that. And he's facing 91 criminal charges. So there's a lot of stuff that could go sideways in this, and that's why we're seeing these other candidates hanging in there.
Indeed. And also, of course, Trump saying he's planning to deliver part of his closing arguments himself in his New York civil fraud trial. So clearly a lot of moving parts here, but doesn't seem to be denting his popularity much at all. Appreciate you, as always, Yahoo Finance reporter Rick Newman. Thanks so much.